Back with part 2 of this week's reading, the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, Tree of Life Version, TLV, and we have just completed chapter 1 of 1 Kings. Chapter 2 is David's last instructions, and then the second part is going to be Solomon's throne secured, and we're gonna begin that now. David's last instructions. Now, when the time of David drew near to die, he charged his son Solomon, saying, I I am going the way of all the earth. So be strong and be a man. Keep the charge of Adonai your God to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, his commandments, his ordinances, and his decrees, according to what is written in the Torah of Moses, so that you may succeed in all that you do and wherever you turn, so that Adonai may fulfill his word which he spoke concerning me, saying, If your children watch their way to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, you shall not lack a man on the throne of Israel. Moreover, you also know what Joab son of Zeruiah did to me, what he did to the two commanders of the armies of Israel, to Abner son of Ner and Amasa son of Jether, whom he killed, shedding the blood of war in peacetime, and putting the blood of war on his waistband, and on his sandals on his feet. So act according to your wisdom, and let his gray hair not go down to Sheol in Shalom. But show kindness to the sons of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table, for they befriended me when I fled from your brother Absalom. Also, behold, you have with you Shimei son of Gera, the Benjamite from Bahurim, who cursed me with a grievous curse on the day I went to Mahanaim. But when he came down to meet me at the Jordan, I swore to him by Adonai, saying, I will not put you to death with a sword. Now don't let him go unpunished, for you are a wise man, and you will know how to deal with him, and bring his gray hair down to Sheol with blood. Then David slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David. The days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. 7 years he reigned in Hebron, and 33 years he reigned in Jerusalem. Then Solomon sat on the throne of his father David, and his kingdom was established firmly. Solomon's throne is secured. Later, Adonijah son of Haggith came to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. Is your coming in Shalom? She asked. It is in Shalom, he said. Then he said, I have something to say to you. Speak, she said. Then he said, You know that the kingdom was mine, and that all Israel looked to me to be the king. However, the kingship has turned about and become my brother's, for it was his from Adonai. So now, one petition I ask of you, do not deny me. Speak, she said to him. Then he said, Please speak to King Solomon, for he won't turn you down, to give me Abishag the Shunammite as wife. Very well, said Bathsheba, I will speak to the king for you. So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him about Adonijah. The king rose up to greet her and bowed down to her. Then he sat down on his throne and had a throne set up for the king's mother, and she sat at his right hand. Then she said, I ask one small petition of you, do not deny. Ask my mother, the king said to her, for I will not turn you down. So she said, Let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah, your brother, as wife. King Solomon answered and said to his mother, So why are you asking Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom as well, for he is my older brother, for him, and for Abiathar the Kohen, and for Joab son of Zeruiah. Then King Solomon swore by Adonai, saying, May God do so to me, and even more, if Adonijah does not pay with his own life for this request. Now therefore, as Adonai lives, who has established me and set me on the throne of my father David, and who has made me a house, as he promised, surely Adonijah shall be put to death this day. Then King Solomon sent Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. He struck him down, and he died. Also to Abiathar, to the Kohen, the king said, Go to Anathoth, to your own fields, for you deserve death, but I will not put you to death at this time, because you carried the ark of Adonai Elohim before my father David, and because you were afflicted in everything with which my father was afflicted. So Solomon dismissed Abiathar from being Kohen to Adonai. So fulfilling the word of Adonai that he spoke at Shiloh about the house of Eli. When the news came to Joab, he fled to the tent of Adonai and grasped the horns of the altar. For Joab had defected to Adonijah, though he had not defected to Absalom. It was reported to King Solomon that Joab had fled to the tent of Adonai, and behold, he was by the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah, and this is spelled Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, Jehoiada, saying, "Go strike him down." So Benaiah actually became his hitman, so to speak. So Benaiah came to the tent of Adonai and said to him, "Thus says the king, come out." But he replied, "No, for I will die here." Benaiah reported back to the king, saying, "Thus said Joab, and thus he answered me." Then the king commanded him, "Do as he said, strike him down, then bury him. So you will remove the blood that Joab shed without cause from me and from my father's house. Thus Adonai will return his blood on his own head, because he struck down two men more righteous and better than he, Abner son of Ner, commander of the army of Israel, and Amasa son of Jether, commander of the army of Judah, and killed them with the sword without my father David's knowledge. May the guilt of their blood return upon the head of Joab and upon the head of his offspring forever. But to David and his seed and his house and his throne may there be shalom forever from Adonai." Then Benaiah son of Jehoiada went up and struck him down and killed him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. Then the king appointed Benaiah son of Jehoiada in his place over the army, and Zadok the Kohen the king appointed in Abiathar's place. Then the king sent and summoned Shimei, Shimei, and commanded him, "Build yourself a house in Jerusalem and live there, and depart not from there anywhere else. For on that day you go out and cross over the Kidron valley. Know for certain that you shall surely die. Your blood shall be on your own head." This saying is good. As my lord the king has said so, so will your servant do. So Shemaiah lived in Israel many days. But it came about at the end of 3 years that two of Shemaiah's servants ran away to Achish, son of Maacah, king of Gath. So they told Shemaiah, saying, "Behold, your servants are in Gath." So Shemaiah rose, saddled his donkey, and went to Gath to Achish to look for his servants. Then Shemaiah went and brought his servants back from Gath. But it was reported to Solomon that Shemaiah had gone from Jerusalem to Gath and back. So the king sent someone and summoned Shemaiah. He said to him, "Didn't I make you swear by Adonai and forewarned you, saying, 'Know for certain that on the day you depart and go anywhere else, you shall surely die?' You even said to me, 'Then the saying is good, I have heard it. Why then haven't you kept the oath of Adonai and the commandment that I charged you with?" The king added to Shimei, "You know all the evil which your heart should acknowledge that you did to my father David. Therefore Adonai will return your evil on your own head. But King Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of David established before Adonai forever." So the king commanded Benaiah son of Jehoiada, and he went out and struck him down, so that he died. Thus the kingdom was secured in the hand of Solomon. That's the end of chapter 2. So there's a footnote here, Hebrews 2:2. I'm going to actually take it from Hebrews 2, 1 to 2. For this reason, it is necessary for us to pay especially close attention to what we have heard, so that we do not drift away. For if the words spoken through angels proved to be firm, and every violation and disobedience received a just payback, how shall we escape if we neglect so great a salvation? It was first spoken through the Lord and confirmed to us by those who heard. At the same time, God was testifying by signs and wonders and various miracles and gifts of the Ruach HaKodesh according to his will. So actually, I read 1 through 4 here. And then also, there's a footnote of Acts 2:29 that I'm going to read. And that reads, "Brothers, I can confidently tell you that the patriarch David died and was buried. His tomb is with us to this day." So this is in reference to David's passing away. Chapter 3 continues with Solomon. As you can see, chapters 1 and 2, Solomon's kingdom is definitely established, and all the enemies of Solomon and potential enemies of Solomon are actually dealt with right from the beginning, including his own brother, who took it upon himself to try to take over the kingdom without David's knowledge. So, chapter 3, Solomon asked for wisdom. Then Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, by marriage, taking Pharaoh's daughter and bringing her to the city of David until he finished building his own house, the house of Adonai, and the wall around Jerusalem. The people, however, were still sacrificing on the high places because there was no house built for the name of Adonai until those days. Now Solomon loved Adonai, walking in the statutes of his father David, except he kept sacrificing and burning incense on the high places. So the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Upon this very altar Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings. At Gibeon Adonai appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask for what should I give you?" Solomon said, "You have shown my father David, your servant, great loving kindness, as he walked before you in trust, righteousness, and uprightness of heart towards you. Indeed, you have kept this great loving kindness for him by giving him a son to sit on his throne as it is today. So now, Adonai, my God, you have made your servant king in my father's place. I am but a youth. I don't know how to go out or come in. Your servant is amid your people, whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted. So give your servant a mind of understanding to judge your people, to discern between good and evil, for who is able to judge this great people of yours?" Now it was pleasing in the eyes of Adonai that Solomon requested this thing. So God said to him, "Because you asked for this thing, and have not asked for yourself long life, nor asked for yourself riches, nor asked for the life of your enemies, but asked for yourself understanding to discern justice. Behold, I have done according to your words. I have given you a wise and discerning mind, so that there has been none like you before you, nor shall anyone like you arise after you. Moreover, I have also given you what you did not request, both riches and honor, so that no one among the kings will be like you all your days. Furthermore, if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments, as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days." Then Solomon awoke and took note of the dream. So he went to Jerusalem, stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered up burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then he made a feast for all his courtiers. So the second part of chapter 3 is judging between two women. Later, two prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. One woman said, "My lord, please, this woman and I live in the same house, and I delivered a child while she was in the house. On the third day after I gave birth, this woman also gave birth to a child. While we were together, with no one else with us in the house, just the two of us in the house, this woman's child died during the night because she lay on top of him. Then she got up in the middle of the night and took my son from my side while your handmaid was asleep. She laid him at her breast and laid her dead child at my breast. When I rose in the morning to nurse my child, he had just died. But when I looked at him closely in the morning, I realized that he was not the son I had born." But the other woman said, "No, for the living one is my son, and the dead one is your son." But the first woman said, "No, the dead one is your son, and the living one is my son." Thus they spoke before the king. Then said the king, "The one says, 'This is my son who is living, and your son is dead,' while the other says, 'No, but your son is dead, and is the dead one, and my son is the living one.'" Then said the king, "Bring me a sword." So they brought a sword before the king. Then the king said, "Divide the living child in two, and give half to the one and half to the other." Then the woman whose son was the living one spoke up to the king, for her heart grew tender for her son and said, "My lord, please give her the living child, only don't kill him." But the other said, "It will be neither mine nor yours, cut it in two." Then the king responded by saying, "Give her the living child, and certainly don't kill him. She is the mother." When all Israel heard of the verdict that the king had given, they were in awe of the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to administer justice. Well, he had figured the one that actually was the mother would not want to see her child killed, so she would give the child up in lieu of having the child killed. So he discerned that very quickly, and of course, the one that said, "No, don't kill him. Give her the baby," was the real mother, and so she was rewarded her child back. In chapter 4, Solomon's official staff. Now Solomon reigned over all Israel, and these were his officials: Azariah, son of Zadok the Kohen, Elihoreph and Ahijah, sons of Shisha, scribes; Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, the recorder; Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, in charge of the army; Zadok and Abiathar, Kohanim; Azariah, son of Nathan, in charge of the officers; Zabud, son of Nathan the Kohen, the king's personal attendant; Ahishar, in charge of the household; Adoniram, son of Abda, in charge of the forced labor. Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel who provided food for the king and his household. Each had to make provision for a month in the year. And these were their names: Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Dekar in Makaz, Shalbim, Beth Shemesh, and Elon Beth Hanan, Ben-Hesed in Arabuth. His were Sokah and all the land of Hepner, Hepper, Hehper, Ben Abinadab in all the height of Dor. Taphath, Solomon's daughter, was his wife, um, and that would have been Ben Abinadab. Taphath was one of Solomon's daughters, was his wife. Bana, son of Ahilud, in Tanakh, and Megiddo, and all Bethshean, which is beside Zarethan, below Jezreel, from Bethshean to Abel Meholah, as far as beyond Jokmeam. Benjeber in Ramoth Gilead. This were the villages of Jair, son of Manasseh, which are in Gilead, and also his were the regions of Argob, which is in Bashan, 60 great cities with walls and bronze bars. Ahinadab, son of Edo, in Mahanaim, and Ahimaaz in Naphtali. He also took Basemath, Solomon's daughter, as his wife. Bana, son of Hushai, in Asher and Beloth. Jehoshaphat, son of Paruah, in, in Issachar; Shimei, son of Elah, in Benjamin; Geber, son of Uri, in the land of Gilead; the son of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and of Og, king of Bashan; and one who was the officer in the land. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand by the sea, in abundance, eating and drinking and rejoicing. So this was a prophecy. That very last line that I just read of chapter 4 was a prophecy that was given to Abraham, and we see that it is fulfilled in First Kings chapter 4, verse 20. I'm going to read it again. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand by the sea, in abundance, eating and drinking and rejoicing. So Adonai had promised that to Abraham, that his seed would be as numerous as the sand of the sea. So I just want to mention before I take a pause, and we're going to come back with part 3. Some of these names can be doozies to read, because they're hyphenated, and they have the lettering. When you go by transliterations, actually looks like it doesn't you know, fit. So just pronounce them. Take your time and pronounce them. Don't be intimidated by them. Um, so I just wanted to kind of mention that because some of them can be very difficult. Um, but anyway, I'm going to pause this and come back with part 3.